Hello guys, and welcome to a new and exciting tutorial from MotoCookie.com. My name is Justin, and today I'll be showing you how to model a billboard ad. Now this tutorial is going to be presented in two parts. The first part is going to be consisted of the modeling process of the billboard, and the second part is going to handle shading, adding some textures, and getting a render, and then getting that render inside Photoshop in order to make some slight adjustments. So before we start, I think that most of you, or if not all of you, know what a billboard is. If you don't, you can go over to iStock Photo or Flickr or even Google Images and just type in here billboard, and the images will show up, and you see that we have a lot of billboard types. Now we're gonna combine some of these designs into a single design and make it unique and our own. For the second part of the tutorial, you are going to need an HDR image that we're going to use to light, and also we're going to use it as a background. Now you can get the HDR image that I'm using in the tutorial from a cool site called openfootage.net. Now this site offers high-res HDR images under Creative Commons license, and you can get the image by typing night in here, and the one that we're gonna use is this one, HDRI 360 degree Geisberg at night Salzburg, something like that. So they offer two images, one for lighting and one for background, so make sure you get both of them. But again, this is for the second part of the tutorial. Okay, so let's get started with the modeling. Before that, I've created an ad. Basically, I've created it in Photoshop, but you can create your own. So you can use my ad. This is the ad that I created. You can use this one. It will be supplied with the tutorial source files, of course for citizen members only, but you can create your own. So I was beginning to tell you this because we're gonna take into account the size of the ad. So the dimension is 960 by 540. So we're gonna create our billboard to match that image aspect ratio. So enough talking, let's get working. So we're gonna start with the cube. I'm just gonna drag in here, make sure I'm on the right side, and I'm gonna make it 9.6 meters by 5.4. Okay, and I'm gonna center it on all axes. Okay, and I'm going to add a bit of thickness in here, kind of like that. Next, I'm going to bevel these outer edges, okay, to get a rounded ad, just like that. And I'm going to create the face of the ad. So I'm just going to inset a tiny bit, and then shift click and inset again, but not too much. And now the back, I'm gonna do the same, just that I'm gonna inset a bit more here, and like that. Make sure it's not coming out through the other face. I'm gonna detach this one because this is gonna be my ad, and I'm gonna add a bit of detail on the back. I'm gonna rename that to billboard, and I'll go now and create a cube. Okay, it doesn't really matter the size right now because we're gonna go to the front here, actually the back. Okay, and we're gonna make sure this matches the inset that we created. Doesn't need to be very perfect, and we're also not gonna go overboard with the detail. So a back isn't even gonna be seen that much. So it's not worth the effort. Okay. Now I'm gonna delete some of these faces that I don't need, and I'm going to extend those like that. Now I'm gonna bevel. Two segments should be enough. Okay, sorry about that. Phone started ringing. So we're gonna bevel them with 2 segments. That should be fine, and we're gonna extrude those edges just a tiny bit like that. And now we're gonna move it into position. Maybe reduce its height so it's like that. Make sure make sure it's not coming on the other side. Okay, and maybe we can move this one, or not. It's fine. Okay, so now we're gonna move it to a side here, and we're gonna use clone. Make sure you check between with 3 clones, and I'm just gonna drag the red handle until I'm happy with the result. And that's the detail on the back. Maybe we can add a bit more by creating a cylinder, and I'm gonna go to the back. Make sure you have segment set to 0. Okay, and now I'm gonna delete the caps since we don't need them, and I'm gonna move this cylinder in, but I'm also gonna make it a bit thinner. Okay, so could be a bit thicker now. Okay, so like that. Now we're gonna use the clone tool again, and we're gonna make more of these. And that's about it for the detail on the back. Now we're gonna add some bevels on the billboard here. We can move these on the billboard layer, and we can add some bevels because those edges seem to be a bit sharp. Roundness level of 2 seems to be okay, and maybe 15mm bevel. Okay, and now we're going to add a bottom part. I'm going to add that by copying this part and moving it down. I'm going to hide everything else because we have this corner that's beveled, and I'm just going to join up those vertices. Okay, and now I need to make sure that these are straight, and I think they are. No reason they shouldn't be. Unhide the rest of our billboard, and I'm just gonna make this a bit shorter and move it in, and maybe even more shorter, kinda like that. Okay, just whatever you're happy with. Okay, and now we're gonna add some segments around maybe 8, maybe 16, 18. So 18 segments. Now we're going to select every other polygon by selecting 2 and then the up arrow, and we're going to bevel it. Oops. Kind of like that. And next we're going to delete those caps that were created since we don't need them. And this time I'm going to add some thickness using thicken on this object. Make sure you have sharp selected. Maybe minus 50 millimeters. Okay, and now I'm going to bevel all the edges. So select all the edges with Alt-Shift-A and just bevel them accordingly. Now, roundness level of 2 is a bit too much, and we're going to bevel them around 12 millimeters. That should be okay. And now we can move this one a bit down so it doesn't intersect with our ad too much. Okay, so just like that. And maybe we can make it a bit shorter now since we pulled a bit. Okay, that seems to be fine. And now we're gonna angle our ad here, since most of the ads, the billboards that I see around highways or large roads are angled slightly to be pointing towards the driver. So I'm gonna do the same with mine. I'm going to point it, angle it 5 degrees on the Y. I'm gonna go to the top here and I'm gonna move it slightly. And now I'm going to instance it. So I'm going to use instance mirror on the Z. Or actually no, instance doesn't work because we don't want a complete mirror. We actually want the other one to be angled on the other way around. So we're gonna instance it like this. Okay, we're gonna make sure it's not angled anymore, so -5 to bring it back straight. And now we're gonna rotate it 180 degrees and then rotate it again -5 degrees. Okay, and now I'm gonna go back to the top, make sure they're lined up, kind of like that. And now we're gonna go ahead and create the supports, basically the big cylinders that are gonna support our billboards. I'm gonna create a cylinder, 520 millimeters. I'm gonna move it slightly. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that it has enough sides because we're not gonna use any sub D geometry in this scene. And I'm gonna pull it up. Now some billboards have cylinders that go over the top like this and maybe have another small billboard, but I'm just gonna leave it right there so it's not showing. And we can probably go ahead and bevel this just in case we change our mind later and want to pull this back up. Okay, we can delete this one and we can move this down. Okay, and now we're gonna duplicate it. Or actually, before we do, we can go in here and add a cut just like that using the slice tool, and we're gonna bevel like that, and now bevel the edges like so. Okay, and now we're gonna copy this one. Actually gonna use clone. We're gonna move it, make sure you tick only one. We're gonna move it like that. Okay, let's go to our camera here, maybe get a nice camera angle so we can see how it's looking. Maybe go with a 30mm lens. And this should be okay. And now billboards have, I'm just gonna use flicker now. Now billboards have those lights that are showing. See, just like this one, they have a light that's showing right there. So we're gonna do the same, but we're gonna use this type of light. So that's individual, so not kind of like this. See, so just like this one, we're gonna use a light. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and create that. So I'm gonna rename this to support. Okay. And on this billboard, we're just gonna copy this polygon. Okay, and we're gonna move it up slightly. Make it a bit thicker, but make sure thinner. Sorry, make sure you have the action center set to local. Okay, just like that. Gonna save my scene, and now I'm gonna add a few cuts here. I'm actually gonna need 3 or actually 4 because we're gonna have 4 lights, or it depends how many you want, but I wouldn't go above 4. So maybe we can go with 3. Okay, so 3 lights, and make sure they're uniform. We're gonna select these edges now, and we're gonna bevel them with a round level of 0. And we're gonna make sure that this connects to the billboard itself. So we're gonna bevel, we're gonna inset a little, shift a click, and then bring it down just till it goes inside the billboard. And maybe we can go ahead and bevel some of these edges so they're not so sharp. Maybe I'll just go ahead and select all of them and just bevel with a round level of 1, just slightly, not too much. Okay, and now from this point we're gonna have our lights. So we're gonna go ahead and bevel that out up till there, shift click, and then bring it down slightly. Okay, and now we're gonna actually, we can maybe rotate this just a bit, so just like that. And now we're gonna create the lights. Okay, we're gonna create a new mesh, we're gonna call it lights. We're gonna use some boxes. We're gonna go to the top here, and we're just gonna create the box straight, so kind of like that. And we're gonna angle it after we're done modeling. Okay, so maybe inset like that, shift click, and we're gonna make some type of a round thing in here. Okay, or actually no, because we're not gonna do anything in there. We're gonna go outside the box. Okay, and now we're gonna select the edges, these edges on the corners, as well as the top and the bottom, and we're gonna bevel them a pretty good amount, kind of like that. Okay, we're gonna bevel this one once more just so we don't get that error, and maybe we can go in here and add just a bit of detail by bringing this in. like that. I don't know if it's even gonna be seen, but it's worth the while. Now I'm gonna go to my top view. I'm gonna angle this one. Make sure you're in automatic mode so you can see how much you angle it. So 5 degrees, and local action center, and I'm gonna move it into position, and now I'm going to rotate it until it's kind of like that, maybe even like that. Okay. And then I'll add another bit of detail on the back here. Not too much, just a little, something like that. And I'm gonna leave it like this. Now I'm gonna go ahead and clone this. So go to the top view, and I'll duplicate, and I'm gonna use instance clone. So instance clone. For some reason it doesn't want to clone it as an instance, but no problem. And one more, kind of like that. We're gonna move these on the same layer, and we're gonna instance them again. So we're gonna right click instance, gonna rotate them by 180 degrees, and we're gonna make sure the angle is right. Oh, we need to make sure that we have an automatic action center. Okay. So rotate 180 degrees. Okay, now I'm gonna I need to freeze my rotation, but for some reason I don't have it. I think it's only done in polygon mode, yeah, not on instances, but no problem. You can then make sure that it's matching, kind of like that. So it probably should be at 170 degrees, and it should match, and it does. Okay, now let's look at our camera. Pretty nice. Just thinking maybe we can add some more detail. But you know, it all depends on you, and it depends on the scene. More detail would probably make it look a bit better, or not, depends. And now what I'm thinking that maybe these supports for the lights are a bit too wide, so actually gonna move them a bit in by minus 910 millimeters. Okay. Something like that. I think I'm quite happy with this one. Let's take a look through our excuse me, through our camera. It's looking pretty decent, but I'm not liking the base. It looks a bit empty. Maybe if we move this like that, Yes, the base it's okay, but I think that maybe we can move these a bit down, kind of like that. And if you go here to Flickr and just look, maybe let's go to iStock photo and search for Billboard, maybe we can see something that brings our attention. We can maybe do something, but overall I think that our billboard looks pretty decent. It looks pretty good. See, not much of a difference in there. So maybe we can maybe we can go and create that support here that's gonna help the workers change the ad. So I'm gonna create a new mesh, and this support is gonna be really simple. We're just gonna create a bunch of boxes basically. So box, gonna make it a bit thick, not too much. Okay, so if you look here, this one, you see it has some of those boxes. Okay, so one like that should work. Okay, maybe we can angle this one 5 degrees. Now we can switch to local and just move it into position. And now we can maybe make it a bit smaller. That's okay. And maybe we can add some cuts in there, maybe 2. And now I'm going to use extrude. I'm going to extrude it in, something like that. Just adds a bit more detail. And I'm going to grab this, copy paste. I'm going to make sure it's not angled anymore, so minus 5 degrees. I'm going to rotate it minus 90 degrees on the x-axis. And now of course I'm going to make it smaller because I want this to be the piece that attaches that small floor from this billboard. Okay, so maybe we can thicken this one, kind of like that, and like that. And now we can angle this one 5 degrees, and we can switch over to local action center and maybe move it into position right here. And I want these to be on every other polygon, so I'm gonna go to the top. I'm gonna use instance clone. First need to make sure it's centered properly. So instance clone, and whoops, looks like we need to move this onto it. Actually no, we're gonna leave it right there. Call this worker support. So we're actually gonna leave it here, and we're gonna use normal clone because we're not having a problem with polygons right now. So we can leave it like this, uncheck between, and just like that. Now maybe we can go in and tweak each one, make sure it's centered on that polygon. No big deal. Okay, and now maybe we can move this onto the other billboard, but I'm not sure if it's seen. Yeah, so it's not going to be seen on the other billboard, so we're not going to bother moving it to the other side, since it won't even show. Now let's get our camera angle right. So I know that I'm going to render this at 960 by 540, and I'm going to make sure that my camera is looking nice, kind of like that. Okay, I'm still not liking this bottom edge. Maybe I can make it smaller. Too big for my taste. Okay, and now we can move that, whoops, not that one, worker support. Maybe we can move this one up a bit. Check the camera again. It's very important to have your camera set up early on, because then you know in what area of the model you need to put more detail, or maybe you know basically it gives you an overall view and an idea of what's going on. Okay, now this looks pretty neat, and let's look again on this billboard. Maybe we can put a ladder, small ladder going down in there, but I'm not really sure if it's even gonna be visible. Anyway, I'm gonna call it done, just like this. And in the next part of the tutorial, we are going to discuss the shading and the post-processing of this model to reach a final image. Now I'm gonna give you, since I showed you the billboard ad, I'm gonna give you a small overview on the PSD that I created, because it's created entirely in Photoshop. Okay, so as you can see, this is the billboard. Let me just hide everything. So I have a background, just a simple background, and then I have a pattern. I made it by creating a pattern, a small circle, and then filling this image with the pattern and make sure the size is right. Then I added in the black part, then the lower parts, and then I added the CG cookie logo, just so it gives it'd be more interest. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So it will be more interesting like this, and then the cookie here, and then some text which has a blurred version of it on top. So like I said, not a big deal. You can use this one, or you can create your own, but make sure you have the same image aspect ratio. So this is the end of part 1 of our tutorial. I hope I'm gonna see you on part 2, and thanks for watching. Stay tuned.